once you're wired for not having safety, we avoid safety. But we also need it to stabilize our life and to build some sort of normality, I assume, post exit. So, how did you create that balance or integration for your own life?
Yeah, I mean, very much as a product of this experience of having a financial windfall that should have set me for life, and then almost losing everything. I was forced to change, and the reality is that like we'll never make a change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the perceived pain of implementing that change. And for
Yeah.
me, I put my back so far against the wall that there was actually no way out other than to learn how to step into stability and create systems to keep myself safe. But one of the most important things I think is, the tendency is to overcorrect and go into a mode where I'm building systems for everything, and I'm trying to completely, you know, go against my programming and create all of this safety. And then at some point, our subconscious is going to take over, and we're going to self sabotage again. So what I
Yeah.
tell founders that I work with is you need a blow off valve, you need a release valve. So maybe put 90% of your
Mm-hmm.
money into safe assets, but take 10% and still swing for the fences and invest in projects that you believe in, and take some of that risk so you have kind of an outlet so that you're not taking the lion's share and doing that same thing, right, where it's disastrous. So take some amount that you can lose and it's not going to affect you, and still find an outlet for that risk-taking nature.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you offer to your clients, or maybe what do you do yourself to create that stability and safety?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is understanding how wealth actually works, and building an engine for stability, because the reality is we think linearly, but that's not the way money works. That's not the way wealth works, right? Like it's a compound interest curve, and we have a really hard time understanding when we're on the flat part of the curve, because our brains are wired to perceive linear incremental progress. But if you can charge that wealth engine with a set of assets that pays for your lifestyle spending, now you've created a compound interest vehicle that actually allows you to increase sovereignty as your wealth increases, right? Because money at the
Okay.
end of the day is only useful if it's uh, if it's used as a tool to generate the life that you want to live ultimately, right? And that can
Mm-hmm.
be from an impact perspective, that can be from a purpose perspective, that can be from creating time freedom to spend experiences with the people that you love. But if we're not doing that, if we're just treating money as the end rather than the means, that's how we get trapped. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I try to do is help people work backwards. And this is exactly the playbook that I did for myself. Is okay, what is the life that I want to actually live? Who do I want to impact? Like what do I want to create here, you know, on with my time on earth? And then I can
Mm-hmm.
back into a decision making framework that allows me to use my wealth to build that actual life. And that's essentially creating a life of alignment. I want to align my values with my money in order to generate the life that I want to live. And that's the framework that I help people solve for.
So, what are some of the most effective exercises or maybe questions that you ask your clients that you see consistently help them break out of this problem of this natural resistance to safety?
Yeah, so one of the first things that I have people do is define what wealth actually means. Because if we're going to talk about building wealth, we
Mm-hmm.
need to have an exact definition. And so, like when I
Mm-hmm.
host a retreat or a workshop, I'll ask for a collective definition of wealth. And it usually starts with something about money, but we end up with some definition that circles around freedom. So, what wealth means to me
Mm-hmm.
is freedom in four areas: freedom of health,
Mm-hmm.
freedom of relationships, freedom of time, and freedom of mind. And those go in ascending order. And once I've determined that wealth really is just increasing freedom, increasing sovereignty, you know,
Mm-hmm.
now my favorite question to ask is, where am I not free? And that is something I return to over and over, is look at all areas of my life and go, where am I not free? Where am I still beholden to some relationship? Where am I still, beholden to giving up my time where I don't want to? And that's where we can start to work backwards to build that ideal vision.
Mhm. I love this. May I challenge you a bit?
Please.
So I've been obsessed about freedom for most of my life, as I think every single entrepreneur out there. And then at some point, I realized that actually, when I did achieve all the freedom I could think about, what I really, really, really wanted was to limit that freedom and to commit to a purpose and have clarity and channel all that energy I had towards that purpose. And I had to admit to myself that I actually do not want to have unlimited freedom anymore. I want to have it limited by my own will. How would you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, right? Is that, I think the first step is doing exactly what you said, is creating that unlimited freedom. And then you get to
Mm-hmm.
step into choice. Okay. If I have unlimited time, if I have the ability to sit in stillness, now what gets to start to emerge? And I think what most people find
Mm-hmm.
is ultimately it's not about you. And that was very much my journey, is that it felt
Mm-hmm.
really fun for a little while to live selfishly and just pursue things like adventure sports and spending time with my kids, and all of that stuff is really impactful. But then I started to
Mm-hmm.
feel this itch of like, hey, I've got something greater to give here. And the
Yeah.
minute I stopped making it about me and started making it about service and purpose, then you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working harder than I've ever worked, including at my
Yeah.
first company right now, creating content, writing, coaching, and I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with my craft.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you'd have told me 5 years ago that I would be working harder than ever, I would have laughed you out of the room,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought it was game over and I would never have to work again. But now it's
Yeah.
it's instead of a place from have to, it's I get to.